Did you know that from 1937 to 1945, China was fighting a war against Japan? Well, hold on. You knew that. But did you know that China's contribution to the Allied victory in World War II is often overlooked in much of Western historical memory? Well, hold on. You didn't know that. Well, now you do. While the war in Europe and the Pacific often takes center stage, China was a critical battleground where the Japanese army was ultimately defeated. And the contributions of the Chinese people to the Allied victory are often overlooked. In fact, the war in China was the longest and arguably most brutal of the entire conflict. In July of 1937, the Japanese army, which had been expanding its empire throughout Asia, launched an all-out invasion of China. The conflict quickly escalated into a brutal war of attrition, with the Japanese attempting to capture major cities while the Chinese forces, led by the charismatic Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek, fought to repel the invaders. The war in China became a stalemate, with neither side able to achieve a decisive victory. But the stalemate came at a great cost. Entire villages were wiped out. Millions of Chinese civilians and soldiers died from combat and starvation, making it one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Despite the staggering losses, the Chinese people remained resilient. They fought back against the Japanese with bravery and determination, inflicting heavy casualties on the enemy and slowing down their advance. The Chinese also made significant contributions to the Allied war effort. For example, the Chinese nationalist government under Chiang Kai-shek provided supplies and resources to the Allies. Additionally, the Chinese played a crucial role in the Burma campaign, helping the British to secure the vital supply route to India. As the war in Europe and the Pacific drew to a close, the Chinese were still fighting against the Japanese. It wasn't until September 2, 1945, that the Japanese surrendered, bringing an end to the conflict. The war in China had lasted for 8 long years, but the Chinese people had ultimately triumphed. Despite the immense sacrifices they had made, the Chinese were not given the recognition they deserved. The focus on the European and Pacific theaters led to a neglect of the Chinese theater in historical memory. However, it is essential to remember that without the contributions of the Chinese people, the outcome of the war could have been very different. The war in China was not just a forgotten theater of war. It was a pivotal moment in human history that should be remembered and celebrated.